Welcome to the Facts versus Feelings podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Detrick, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sonu Varghese.
Cutting through the noise in 30 minutes each week, taking out the boring and helping investors focus on what really matters. A quick note before we start the show. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Carson Partners, a division of CWM LLC, is a nationwide partnership of advisors.
We are so excited with a live stream version of the Carson's Facts versus Feelings podcast with Ryan and Sonu. We're joined with someone we are so excited to be here with today, Ron Carson, our founder and CEO. But I'm Ryan Detrick, the Chief Market Strategist with Carson. Sonu is VP, Global Macro Strategist. We have to get our titles right, Ron. We got slapped once. Your exact title, just so marketing doesn't yell at us. What is your exact title, sir?
Ron, what is your title?
Mine?
Exactly?
Yeah, your exact title. Do you even know what it is?
It's I think it's CEO and founder.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, yeah, pretty close, right?
That sounds good.
By the way, I love listening to you guys. There's just so many options for podcasts out there, and the Jeremy. I can't think Jeremy's the last name right now.
Professor Siegel.
Siegel.
Yes.
Jeremy
yes,
Siegel.
Siegel, yes.
That was, and then I got hooked on your guys' podcast, and I just
I
love the energy between you two, and I learn something every time, and I love the facts versus feelings because it's. I just watched a podcast, or actually a video from a Harvard professor talking about how we learn and it correlates with happiness through life, and how it. First part of our lives all around facts, and then we get that's fluid intelligence, and then we develop crystallized intelligence, which is feelings,
and that's so important.
Yeah. And it's we peak at our fluid intelligence around 40, and then you want to start relying on crystallized intelligence. And he actually gave an example where Darwin couldn't make the move, so his happiness plummeted, or Bach could, and he quit composing and started teaching because he started realizing on. Anyways, so the facts and feelings played into a real theme this year around how does that even play into how we learn in happiness.
That's awesome. That's how this conversation is going to go.
Right, all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, the first things first. Again, we're coming to everyone live streamed right now, and people are listening to this podcast. Be a couple weeks later, maybe or so, give or take, if you listen to it on the places you get this podcast. But Ron, find your freedom. I want to start with that. I think you and I spoke maybe about a year ago when I was looking at coming over and talking about things, and I heard, find your freedom, okay, whatever. But now I've been here for a while, and I understand you mean it. You really mean it. How did you come up with that? I believe it was you that came up with it. And what does it really mean to, an advisor out there who might be looking around saying, you know what? I kind of like what's in the water over there, Carson. What do they mean when they say find your freedom?
So, first of all, I did not come up with it. Aaron Shaban came up with it. Right. We do a lot of, I call it just personal inward kind of work. And he had this we were talking a lot about what is it that we really do and people crave more than anything. And even this morning, I had a handful of people come up and said, when you first came out with that, I thought it was just a brand, a way to attract people. But I have found mine, and what a gift. And here's what it is. Find your freedom is putting yourself in a position where almost everything you're going to do is things you love to do. That you are fully expressing yourself, that we don't think as work and play as play, but we manifest a life of living at our highest level, loving the people we're with, loving the places we are, loving our activities for the day, and most importantly, loving ourselves. And, I go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have a worldwide crisis of people that don't even have the ability to get their shot of it because they're struggling with their physiological or security, and until you get the bottom two rungs taken care of, you simply can't get up above it. And we're in a unique position at Carson to really work with people to really understand what they want, how they're going to get there, and then they need to know they've got someone that's got their back, that's thinking about things they're not thinking about, so they can pursue their personal freedom.
One more for me, then Sonu jump in. Yeah. I know we just cracked serving 46,000 families, $22 billion in assets. In your wildest dreams, did you honestly see that when you started the company 30-some years ago? I forget exactly when you started the company, about 30,
this
right?
This is our 34th year.
Okay.
I started in 1983.
Yes, okay.
And so yesterday, we get our AUM report that comes out. Now, Jeannie and I were, I was sitting there and it came out and it was, going on 22.2.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I said, honey, I still remember when we celebrated when Carson hit $25,000 of AUM.
Wow.
So no,
Yeah.
not in my wildest dream. And I still have the dot matrix sheet of paper that shows we hit 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And talk about that journey. I mean, like way back 1983 when you started. I mean, Carson's journey, your journey, right, through it all. One thing I really like, you've talked about this often, is IQ and AQ.
Yes.
Right, and adaptability. So, how is that? That's been a big part of us being where we are right now, and taking Carson forward as well, right? So maybe we can talk about that too.
Yeah, Sonu, both of them. So the IQ is, people always think I'm talking about intelligence, but I'm really just talking about getting shit done.
Yes.
And we call that implementation quotient.
Right.
And and there's something that's very prevalent with humans, is this saying, when it's all said and done, a lot more gets said than gets done. Right. We just talk about it versus doing it. And so one of the things that I've taught within our coaching program is the 6 most vital one. What are the 6 most important things you've got to get done in order of priority? And I would say that one thing, people say, what's one thing that will improve my productivity? I'm not saying your happiness, but improve your productivity. It's the 6 most vital one. And that really served us well for a long time. And you guys have shared these stats. The average S&P 500 company in the 50s, or in the 70s, we're averaging 50 years, and today it's a fraction of that, and accelerating downward quickly because of the AQ, and we call that adaptability quotient. And what I believe and what I teach is, don't defend what you know, but embrace the unknown. Every single day, there's a whole set of new data and information that we have. And by the way, the older I'm getting, I'm 58 now, the more I know I don't know. Matter of fact, that gap continues to widen at the speed of light, relative to what there is to know. And I think adaptability is even going to be more critical. I've been talking about AI and how it's going to really play into the convenience and the client experience. But I think people have heard me talk about it and say, it really hasn't happened like you thought it would, and they're right. But I believe this rubber band that's been pulled. It's now with ChatGPT has been let go. And I heard some stats yesterday. I think this will surprise you guys. When AI in 2018, so 5 years ago, when AI was running and teaching itself, how many parameters was it? This is a term they used yesterday. How many parameters was it looking at for teaching? How many? Give me a number, if you were to guess.
20,000. No idea.
I think I know the answer, but like 75 million?
They said around 3 million.
3 million. All right.
Okay. What is it today? So in 2018, it was 3 million parameters.
As somebody who does this, like math and all that, I cannot even comprehend.
Can you take a wild guess? Just a guess.
50 million?
What would you say?
16 trillion.
It's a 1 trillion.
Okay.
But think of this. Wow. 3 million and 18 to 1 trillion parameter. Okay, then they said phenomenal. In the next 12 to 18 months, they project it's going to be 60 trillion.
Wow.
That gives you some kind of, Matt, I don't even know.
It's
and you give me an idea what a trillion is. A trillion seconds ago was 31,600 years ago.
Wow.
That's way beyond even Alexander and stuff.
And the debate yesterday between these groups was, and in the room there were 4 or 5 experts, and they were disagreeing on this, by the way. One was that it's growing. So think of that, 3 million to 60 trillion, and what will it be? I don't even know what the numbers.
Yeah.
Can it gain consciousness? Can it gain feelings? Because it became a sentiment, and can it become real human? And then one side said absolutely not, there's no way, and the other side absolutely can and will, and I think that's the debate we have today. But whether it does or doesn't, let's come back to AQ. It's going to cause us to need to be more adaptable than ever, because the landscape and the environment we're going to operate in is going to be crazier than it's ever been.
Right. No, that's fascinating. All these changes, and imagine the pace of changes is increasing as well. It's not that things are changing too, right? It's changing faster and faster and faster. And no, that's why, everything we do here, I feel like it sometimes feels like we're running so fast, but that's part of the fun too. I know what Ryan and me do all the time. It's been a blast, really.
Oh, it absolutely is. Ron, I want to change gears for a second. So I like to think our podcast sometimes asks questions people didn't see coming.
Yeah.
You played football at Nebraska. Let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, position did you play? You loved it, obviously, in high school. Tell us a little bit about your football career, because I've always kind of wondered this one.
Well, this has never come up on a podcast.
See, that's why I wanted this to be a little more unique.
Yeah, so I went to a small town just north of here, C1 football, and when I was a freshman, I was 200. I was 6 foot, almost 6. I was over 6'4", close to 6'5", 225 pounds, and I was a running back.
Okay.
And so in track, I sprinted. I did the 100-meter, the last leg of the 400-meter, and I threw shot and disc. So I had kind of a unique thing.
Wow.
And then I played defensive end. Mm-hmm. Well, I wasn't nearly fast enough to play a running back in college, but they recruited me as a defensive end, and so I went down to Nebraska under Osborne.
Wow. Okay.
And in the first year, they took me from 225 to 264.
Whoa.
Wow.
And I actually increased my speed. Mm-hmm. And then I re-injured my knee. Yeah. I literally started my business cold calling out of a phone book and never went back.
Okay.
I tell people I went to Nebraska and I learned everything they had to know in a year, which isn't true, but it's because it used to bother me that I didn't have a college degree, and it doesn't bother me anymore, but it did for a long time. So I never really ever liked even talking about that era of my life. I was always afraid a client might ask me what my degree was in.
Understood.
Okay.
Now I can say life.
Yeah, exactly. Was Coach Osborne, I mean, did you stay connected with him? Because if you didn't play football for him for many years, but you still connected with him?
I've stayed connected with him.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool.
He's an awesome human. Even when he was in the House of Representatives, he was a congressman. I remember I did a series called Habits of Top Achievers, and I remember interviewing him then. And then I helped start a thing called the Husker Air Force, where we'd fly the coaches around for recruiting. And he was the athletic director then, and so I spent some time with him, and I was close with the program, and so he was always around the program. So Osborne's awesome. He also started a thing in Nebraska called Teammates, which is a great mentoring program. And just a shout out to Dr. Tom and Coach Tom. He is an amazing, amazing person.
One more, Sonu, that you can jump in. You said that we're mentors, so I always like to ask this. Who were some of your mentors over the years, and what have you learned from them?
Man, I've had a handful. My mom and dad, they just by example, we worked hard as kids, and they taught me a lot. And then my football coaches in high school. One just passed away last year. His name was Coach Hunt, and just like you just never know. I remember I was an average student, and because he was a coach, I wanted to perform so well. So when I was a 7th grader, I got 100 in his class, and he wrote this little note in little tiny red. I still have it, just to my mom about, hey, Ronnie actually got 100. I just want you to know from here on out, I know he can do this. This is the expectation.
That's awesome.
He alone really elevated my confidence in myself. I had another coach, Coach Gensler, who was instrumental in my life, and I think about 2 teachers and 2 coaches I had. And then in business here in Omaha, there's a gentleman by the name of Howard Hawks who started Tenaska Energy, who's been a great mentor of mine, and I think of people in the past of history, just great leaders. I like to study them. I think they're mentoring me and they don't even know it.
Right. Wow.
That's amazing.
Well, we're coming to everyone live from the Partners Summit, Carson's Partners Summit in Omaha. I think we've hit about the 15-minute mark, Ron. We're halfway done.
Wow.
I know. It's like we better start talking faster here. Get everything out. Sonu, go ahead, though. This has been so fun so far. Yeah.
So I love planes, and I know you do too. And you just mentioned like flying coaches around. When did you get into flying? I know you fly. You still fly?
Actually, I quit flying 2 years ago. A little story on that. I'm the kind of person that can be all in for something for like 10 or 20 years and then be done and just move on to something else. And I did that with golf. I've done that with aviation now, but I learned to fly. My dad made me learn when I was 16.
Wow.
We had this little 4-seater airplane that it scared me to death to fly. So his solution was, well, I'll just teach you to fly. But then I used aviation to really build our business. Being here in Omaha, I could be anywhere really in the country in 2 hours. I call it my time machine. And you may not, maybe you guys do know this, but Walmart was built because of aviation.
I didn't know that.
Sam Walton actually had a little plane. He would get up, he'd fly around these areas. He would look at the population and go, I'm going to put a Walmart there.
Wow.
I was just hearing the story directly from the current CEO last year. He was talking about how
really cool.
And they have one of the largest aviation fleets today. And I think businesses don't leverage, they look at the cost, they don't look at the time machine it provides. But then as we moved up in size and aircraft, I got to where it sounded like everybody's having more fun in the back, and I was always working up front. And I didn't realize it was a little bit of a mental tax. I'm in a meeting, I'm starting to worry about weather. So that for 6 months, I'm going to move to the back of the plane. And my wife, partner of 41 years, said, you'll never last. And I moved back there, and I've loved it. So 2 years ago, I've been 2 years without flying.
All right. It's on my bucket list. I would love to learn
you
to
will
fly.
love it.
Someday, yes. But another thing was, so you put all these amazing videos up, which I love watching, LinkedIn, social media. And on social media now, your name has Omani in the middle of it. So,
Thanks for asking about that.
Yeah, so I would love to hear more. I'm sure everyone's wondering about what is that. I mean, so I'm sure a lot of people have seen the video, but still.
Yeah. So, growing up, my family knew me as Ronnie, professionally as Ron, and a lot of kids I played football with, they called me Carson. So those are the names. And then I really started this. I grew up in a household that was agnostic and atheist at best, or agnostic at best, but more atheist. We had no spirituality. And I really found my spirituality, and through that process, I met a gentleman by the name of Chief Phil Lane, who is members of the Chickasaw tribe and Lakota, and really just.
And they're local to this region, is it?
No, he's from British Columbia.
Oh, wow.
And he started this thing. He's dedicated his entire life to building the one human family, and I could go.
Wow.
There's a lot on my social media about the one world family, one human family. But anyway, he, recognizing the work I was doing with him around this, he asked me to join his tribe.
Wow.
And gave me my Native American name, which is Tate Omani, which means walking into a stiff wind. And you heard about a lot of the impact around food, water, mental wellness that I want to have. We want to have a big impact on those social causes and needs. And I shortened it to Omani. And so if you look at social media, it's Ron Omani.
Yeah.
My new friends call me Omani. But if you know me as Ron or Ronnie or Carson, I'll answer to all of them.
Right. No, that's great. Well, that's an amazing story. He sounds like a very special person too.
He is. You'll get the chance of meeting one of these days, Sonu. As a matter of fact, we're having this gathering up at the ranch, our healing ranch, this fall. He'll be there. And we have sweat lodges. I mean, there's all kinds of different really cool things that you, if you've never done a sweat lodge, it's a pretty cool experience.
It's not a sweat lodge, but what do you think, Ryan?
It sounds neat. I was thinking of the sweat lodge. I was like just walking here the other day wearing a jacket. It was a little sticky out, so I sweated a little bit at the same. Ron, let's talk more about the company.
Yeah.
Like you just mentioned, you've got some other things. You're not really running day to day so much like you were. You've got so many other neat things you're doing. For a partner or someone looking at coming over to Carson, what does that mean? You're not doing the day to day. You've got some new leadership. How will that impact someone, and why do you think it'll even make the company better down the road potentially?
If anybody knows me, they know that while I may not be in the day-to-day grid of just running the company, I'm always working on the next big thing.
Right.
And I believe there's an opportunity in our space to deliver something that's never been delivered. And I want you to think of it as a really intense, holistic model where people can come and plug in to Carson and our experience and know that we've got a group of experts that's looking at all of their stuff all of the time, that we've got their back, and we're thinking about things they're not thinking about, all the way from their investments and cash flow planning and taxes and estate and trust and their retirement plans to holistic health and how to all of this, I just talked about the power of AI. Imagine a world where we have this very rich data that we can use someone's personal behavior and their data to benefit them, only them, and not using the data against them to market to them, but just simply use it to make their life even more convenient. And I look at the anxiety in the world today, and it's high. I mean, Bert talked about this confidence gap. It's big and it's real, and it's because everybody seems to have an agenda. And I want Carson to be the brand that people look at 10 years from now, and it's a household name to go, they sit on the same side of the table, they care about me, and they didn't just say they're going to help me live a better, more elevated, find my freedom life. I can actually feel it and measure how it feels to me and the people I'm serving. And let's take the world back from the extreme on both sides that don't represent the will of humanity. That's the ultimate goal here, is I want to help create a better world through the beautiful people that are choosing to be part of this vibrant community.
I love it. One more, Sonu, then you can jump in. I've got friends in this industry, advisors, been working with advisors a long time. What I hear from some of them at different places, my shop's so small, I'm not getting the support I need. Or my shop is so big, I feel just lost at sea. What I have felt these last several days, the Carson Group, that's not the case at all, right? We are, I forgot you exactly worded it. We're small enough that you want to email me, you, Sonu, any partner can do it. But we're large enough we can get Professor Siegel on our podcast with one quick email. We are, I think, at this sweet spot where if someone wanted to come over, we can support them so much more than they're not currently getting supported. You want to build on that a little bit. This sense of community is another word I've been hearing for days, and boy, is it 100% true.
We have been so, Ryan, I appreciate you bringing this up, because we've been so careful. If we just said we just want to be big, we could be 10 times bigger than we are today. But we really, my goal when a partner joins us is, if I were to introduce that partner to my absolutely biggest and best client, that I would be so excited and proud of the partner. And I want it to be someone, if I were to die right now, that I would trust them to handle my family stuff, because I know they're going to do it the right way. And the phrase I use is, we're small enough that all of our partners have a voice, but we're big enough to actually do something with it. And size does matter. I was just speaking at Tiburon last week in Boston. 80% of the flows of any new assets are going to the top 6% of the firms. I think it's eventually going to be like 90 to the top 3%. Cut it in half. I mean, because it's expensive. We look at what we're spending in order to invest properly for the future. I look at those that don't have much of a budget, and ultimately those that win are going to be providing the most unified, immersive, proactive experience out there that touches many pieces of their life and allows all those pieces to work in harmony and communicate with each other.
Wow, that was great. I mean, again, this is the live version of Carson's Facts versus Feelings with Ryan and Sonu, joined by Ron Carson. This is live, guys. We've got, 5 minutes, give or take, about? Okay, so we got probably 2 more questions. Maybe let's word it that way. This has been fast, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's been really fast.
Go ahead, Sonu.
Now, circling back to the top, where we talk about finding a freedom, and so what excites you every day? I mean, because there's a lot of negativity, in this world right now. You talk about it, and I love the message about, love, and, everyone grows with love, and you learn to hate, right? So when you talk to clients and things like that, I mean, what excites you? Because you're, just from everything you talk about and do, it sounds like, Ron is, a very uplifting person in a lot of ways, and for all of us to, look up to you and all of that. So I'm curious how you, when you talk to other people and you talk to clients or even other advisors, how do you talk about that message?
So I feel like when I was a kid, my favorite day was Christmas Eve. And today I feel like a 9-year-old on Christmas Eve, pretty much every day. And I want that feeling for everybody that we touch. I want it for my family. Our internal, we call them internal stakeholders, our Carson, our family. And there's a vibe change that's desired, like like I've never felt since I've been on this earth. And people want a different way. And so there's micro communities that are being created all over the world in order to really shift from hoarding out of fear and scarcity to shifting the world to more of an abundance mindset. And I am super bullish on humanity because of the next generation, the young people. They care more about this than ever. Now there's this massive disconnect. I think the pendulum has swung so far that now people are starting to crave coming back, being together, being in each other's energy. And we're seeing that up at the ranch, and I'm doing a lot of work around these themes, really connecting people back to oneness and solving real social issues.
I love the term micro communities. I feel like that's what we have here. And
we do.
It's so amazing. Going to what Ryan, you were saying earlier, but just the 3 days we've been here, I mean, Ron, you're in Omaha, or you're traveling a lot of the time. He's in Cincinnati, I'm in Chicago, but we feel very together.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking all the time, and we talk to our partners, and now we're here, and it's even more special.
I agree.
It's amazing is the short answer. I made a half joke every 2 steps. Someone comes up and talks to myself or Sonu, saying, I love what the research is doing. We've heard from so many of our partners. We love this podcast. I know you probably take 1 step when people talk to you, but it's so exciting. I guess this is the last question. We've talked about all your incredible successes, this amazing company that you've built, and I'm just so honored and excited to be here.
We have built.
We started and we've built from there. But I'm just having a blast. Let's maybe take a little change. I like to ask this one too. Failures. We've all had many failures. Believe me, I have many times. What's one failure that you've had that you really learned from that someone maybe new to the industry or an advisor could really take away and realize, oh, I don't want to go that path because he did, but you learned from it?
Yeah, that's easy, Ryan. It was my ego.
Okay.
We're a product of the way we were raised, right? And to really oversimplify it, I had such an unhealthy ego out of not really feeling like I was living up to anything. We went broke when I was 17 years old. And my motivation out of being successful was basically, to give the middle finger to anybody that said anything bad about my family. And so I always had something to prove. I was trying to outrun this hungry ghost of accomplishment that I could never live up to. And that was a big failure. A failure from the standpoint that I didn't love my life. I had no joy. From the outside looking in, I think people looked at it and said, oh, it was really good and cool. And really doing a lot of work to have my ego's here all of our egos are here to protect us, but that, I call it that sneaky little MF that is there, that always wants to do or say or interject. And now I feel like it's congruent with my soul and my ego. And I not that it doesn't prop up, but I'm aware of it. And that was a failure because I didn't get to live life and enjoy it. I didn't love myself. And that's a lot of the work we do around helping people find their personal freedom.
Amen. I think that was an excellent final answer there.
Good lesson for all of us.
Ron, from Sonu and myself, from all the listeners on the Facts versus Feelings podcast, we really are honored and delighted you were able to join us today. And this is live stream, so wave at everybody who's watching us live there.
Thank you for watching.
Nellie just walked up, your dog walked up, I gave her a little scratch. She came up, and we were talking about community, proving community. Dogs are coming up, saying hi too. So this was a lot of fun, Ron. Thank you so much for joining us. And all the listeners, Sonu and I will be back next week with the next edition of the Facts versus Feelings podcast. Thank you guys. Take care. Goodbye.
Information provided on Facts versus Feelings with Sonu Varghese and Ryan Detrick are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. The statements and opinions of show guests may not be reflective of CWM LLC or its affiliates. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested in directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Guests on Facts versus Feelings are not affiliated with CWM LLC.